Hey there, everybody, all my YouTubians and Facebookian friends. Yes, I got inspired by Paul because all his letters are with the ins, Ephesians, Corinthians. So, yeah, us today, and now we're just like so digital. So, I thought to bring in some places, of social media uh, names to each and every one of us. Um, but yeah, I kind of feel like I am getting a little bit more comfortable in coming before you all and recording myself, kind of like the example of Avatar, where he has to be always going on camera to like speak about his experiences and stuff. So I kind of feel like that when I come before you guys and I start to work work in working out my ministry before Father. This is the best way I know how to witness and testify of Father's goodness in my life, and to show how easy it is um, to praise Him and to honor Him and dedicate my life to Him before you all. This is the demonstrations that we need to see in one another in order to that way we can see each other's fruits and to know how to not lean on ourselves and know how to help each other grow in Father. And so yeah, this is the best way that I can that I'm working at the moment. Hopefully down the road Father will show me how else I can bring Him more of me in different types of offerings before Him, to bless our King. That's what we're supposed to do, is to shower Him with all sorts of goods because of what He gives to us. First and foremost, He supplies our needs, and now it's to give back to Him. And He doesn't ask for a lot, so it's not hard. It's not hard to show love to a King. And so I just thought to put that out there as an extra piece before we get started. And so before we go on to our recaps, let's go ahead and bring some prayer in with Him. So this way we invite Him, showing Him that we want His presence, because a gentleman as He is, and He's so loving, He doesn't force Himself on any of us. He wants us to willfully want Him. And He looks for that cheerfulness, that joy of wanting Him. Then He can have much more of a relationship with us. If you're gonna just do it to like, well, I got my reading time in, and just doing it like, how like when your parents give you chores and you're just like, I don't want to do this or whatever, rather than seeing that it helps keep the atmosphere clean, and if things just run better when your house is all tidy and stuff like that. You kind of want to see that joy in your children, that they don't mind. It's not to say that the tasks of chores can be tedious, but when you put jams on and you're just having fun, it doesn't seem like a hard thing. And then whenever you're sharing the responsibility with one another, all the more it becomes even fun. But I don't know, not everybody thinks the same. But yeah, anyways, let's invite Him in. But yeah, while we come before you, giving you praise and thanks today for all the goodness that you are in our lives. Always counting from the small things to the big, Abba. Seeing the fact that the miracles in peaceful rest comes by you. Giving another extra day of life comes by you, waking us up. And giving us moments to try to find you in one another, to hear, any good words that come from someone else that is representing you, and yet we don't know it. Sometimes we are so at odds with one another that we don't want to hear you through each other. We kind of just go about it like how some, when they don't want to hear counsel, when you try to tell them about a certain condition you're experiencing, and someone can have like a home remedy that could help that situation, but they gotta hear it from the doctor. And I can recall those moments with my own mom. But it's just how it goes sometimes, and yet you have made all of us to lean on one another to where we don't have to use so much of the different systems out there that are warring against you and have taken away from what you have had of us to work in using certain things and knowing certain things by the understanding that you give to help take care of one another and conditions, whatever they could be. But it is what it is until everybody comes into that truth with you, till they can finally see that you're knocking on their door and they will want you to enter in, so that they can see these things are so that they can stop hiding if they too are in lies, and that they come into the full truth of knowing how it should go, and possibly they just fight against it. I don't know, so many thoughts can be had of why we do what we do. But I'm just grateful, Father, for every small thing to the greatest, Abba. Knowing that I do have a roof over my head. I do have, a vehicle that can take me from point A to point B. So I just thank you, Abba. We all can just meditate on your word when we come to the truth and reflect why it is the situations that we face, and to know how to get ourselves out if we just take mind to what you have said, to what you ask, which is so simple, just to obey, and it will go well with us. So that's my Thanksgiving, Abba. That's also within a prayer for many to come to this understanding, so that they can see why it is that I rejoice and that I'm so happy every single day, because it's not hard to have a relationship with you. The stubbornness is what makes things hard. When you can finally see the truth in your word, and you can see the error where you are at, it takes, strength to admit when one is off, or where they have, done wrong in certain areas, and what they can do to fix it. And that's even where another part, of testing comes in, that people have a hard time going to others to make things right. So this way they can start getting healed from the inside out. But I pray, Abba, I pray that they come to this, soon enough. So I pray that they keep on washing themselves, like Naaman's story. It's a very encouraging one. Something so simple, that they keep dunking themselves in your word and getting cleansed from the inside out. Something like what Yeshua talks about in washing dishes, in a sense, washing a cup. And it needs to be cleansed from the inside out. Nobody wants to drink from a dirty cup. So I just pray. I pray, Abba, and I give praise and thanks to you. I love you, and I ask that as we explore the next couple of chapters during the hour, and then meditate on it together, that you help us with our understanding. What can we see from you? Sharpen us, so this way we get the stuff that we are meant to walk it out and to do it right before your sight, because we have these examples for that reason. Then help us to retain all that we're getting, Father. Sometimes I know that when the seeds are planted, if we don't take care of ourselves to maintain it, the enemy can come and steal, kill, and destroy, taking the seed away or bringing in other things to choke it. So, that parable of the sower, may we learn from that example. So help us, Abba. We ask that you help us keep it locked within us. In Yeshua's name, Abba, our love and submission unto you. Amen. Okay, so let me put the hour on. Sorry, just trying to get to it. Didn't have it prepped right away. Alrighty, starting now. Okay, so if we can try to go over it, before we move forward. This last one we got 3 chapters in, which was from 15, 16, and 17. And so we got to see where the covenant with Abraham began, how it starts, and what's expected. That Father asks out of him. Oh no, that's on 17. This is the covenant, just to show him that he was going to always be with him. And that he's going to, bless him with an heir. And then we see Sarai and Hagar, and then Ishmael's situation. And then, of course, and I'm just reading the titles, so it can kind of like help me recap what was said when we read it. Then we have the covenant of the circumcision, and then the promise of Isaac. Okay, so we see, at the start of God's covenant with Abraham, where he was letting him know, like, I'm going to give you a child. And he was like, how will I know? And then Father showed him what to do, so that way he could understand that it was going to happen. And in that trance, he got to see, a truth come through, like a promise. And then, of course, when we get to Sarai and Hagar's situation, there's just so much that could be said on that situation. What I've come to know when I've read the word is that Father is very patient when he gives blessings. Like, he's not going to do it in our temper tantrums of like, bless me now, you said this and it hasn't come through, and and you're giving him this attitude as to like, you've said it and now it hasn't happened. And so then you take matters into your own hands, and here we do see where Father didn't give Hagar to Abraham. There's, like I said, there's so much you can look at, many angles with this situation, and then pull in where you see pieces in the law where it could fit. So, and this way kind of helps you to do better judgments by the examples to any type of situation you kind of faced that seems similar. Okay, so there we can see that Father didn't give her over to him, and could it be the fact that Sarai, her period had stopped, who knows? Was it because of that reason, and she was just like, I can't, but we see that kind of case with her being kind of past the age of what we know of, when kind of like what menopause and all that stuff starts to happen at a certain age, by what we understand by our terminology. my doctor's visits and stuff like that, and when things kind of start to die, and by the time we got to chapter 17, she's an older lady, and that could just seem impossible, you know. And I think that was what Father's biggest goal was, is that he wants to surprise you when something kind of seems like, no, that's impossible, because he's the God of possibility. You know, he wants to wow us in our own thinking of saying, no, that can't be so. And he's like, I can cause it to be so. You know, nothing's impossible with him. And I think that's what he was hoping that they would wait out for. But, us seeing that he's pulled Abraham out from, you know, from whatever traditions he had held to the beginning of it, of this walk with him, probably didn't know how this God functioned, depending on what his family traditions were and what gods did, and I don't know. But Father was trying to see more or less if he would just hold the faith and understand, on my timing I will. And we don't see big conversations like that with Father as to like, why is it taking so long? But we do kind of see the examples where some just, they don't have that patience to be surprised. And granted, some people, when you talk with them, they don't like surprises, which is weird. I love to be surprised, but people take it into their own hands and think, or want to dub it and say, thus says Father, or I feel God is leading me to do this, and probably truly isn't, and they take matters into their own hands, and then what happens? We see others suffer by that choice. And so sadly, Ishmael and Hagar, both of them, suffered by that choice, because Sarai and Abraham just they took matters into their own hands, and they thought, well, maybe this is what Father wants. Just hold on. If he said it, wait until the next time you hear again from him. Let that voice come to you. Because if you haven't really heard him, then you're going to overstep and other people will suffer. And so here we see where Hagar, was mistreated, and Ishmael, was later on, they end up going away and are dismissed. Sorry, everybody. I got a phone call. Can you call Louis real quick? Yeah, so that's more or less what I can see from it, for like additional thoughts to it. Another thought had came to me a while back when I read on it. I was like, could it be that maybe Sarai was giving up because maybe her husband had lustful thoughts towards Hagar, and was just like, look, it's not happening by me, so, here, take who you've been desiring. That's just another thought. Of course, all these are just assumptions, and understand that that's all they are. We don't have the full on, we don't know the whole heart of the matter from each of them. But these are just thoughts that, what if it could have been this? Or when you kind of judge how you yourself in your own natural state have gone through things, and what you've thought, with situations, or how would you have handled it different? So you kind of have all these questions with Father, and it's okay. That's where that relationship, that conversation with him, is okay to have. But of course, you always go just to like the main of it, what it's truly saying, of course, and then what can you really pull from it. And like I said, with the whole example, when you read the whole word, it really truly seems like that's exactly how Father truly works, is that he's not going to be pushed to do what he's given by his word, and he will do it at the time he wishes to do it. And but like I said, you see over and over where someone just takes it into their own hands, and then situations happen. So like I said, before we get into 18, then we see here comes the promise of Isaac. And that's where we saw Abram got his name changed, of course, and Sarah, his wife, as well. And then we also got to chuckle along with Abraham, hearing that he was going to be his father in the age that he was. So that was another thought that made me wonder, like, could that have been like, what was he laughing because of their age, and maybe it was kind of hard to kind of make that happen? He's like, was going to be, so they didn't need some type of blue pill back then. Father, if that could have been a case, where he's like, how's it gonna happen? We don't have these urges anymore, and it's kind of hard, physically, just thoughts, because we see what we know of today. And so Father can make it happen. And like I said, he wanted them to believe that, even at a point where you yourself look at the situation at hand and say, no, that's not gonna work, because you look at everything from where your understanding is, from what you've been taught, what you know from doctors' mouths, and any type of other counselor or person that you went to get advice, and so when someone is telling you these things, or you feel you have an education in it, you're like, no, that's impossible. And Father's just like, I am the God of impossible. I make it possible just to wow you, so you can see I cause these things. And so yeah, that's just that was my thoughts when it came down to that. We got to chuckle with Father Abraham, and then of course I think in a while, when we get more into it, I think later on we'll be able to chuckle or giggle with Father, and then giggle with Mama Sarah, because I think she too laughed. But that's later, and I find that funny because both names got changed, and we get to laugh with both of them at different times. But anyways, let's move forward now. Okay, so that is my recap with the additional thoughts. Whenever I got done reading it, certain things were coming to me. I thought, well, I could share my insights, my thoughts, but that's all they are, just my comments, my thoughts to how certain things possibly could have been thought, just because of our current situations are one and the same to back then, and why it is hard for so many to just believe that there is Father because of the impatience. But anyways, and if we don't work that out, it grieves Father, and how can you believe that something he's supposed, that he's promised, not supposed to, it doesn't have to, but that he said, you can have eternal life granted and all this, and if we don't work out believing him in the small things. But yeah, okay, so chapter 18. The title for it is Abraham's 3 Visitors. Okay, and so because of that recap, we saw where Father did say, from this time to a year from now, from this time, expect that you're going to be expecting, baby. Okay, so God appeared to him near the oak of Mamre, while he was sitting at the door of his tent during midday. Upon looking up, he saw with his eyes, and look, 3 men had stood over him. And upon seeing them, he ran up from the doorway of his tent to meet them. Okay. Then he bowed down to the earth. So I guess that's kind of saying like he saw them far off, but one could take it as like they were hovering over him, like just the way things are worded. Upon looking up, he saw with his eyes, and look, 3 men had stood over him. I would have took that as like that would have frightened me. But it says that he ended up running after them. And upon seeing them, he ran up from the doorway of his tent to meet them. So he ran to catch them. And he bowed down to the earth. And he said, Lord, if perhaps I have found favor before you, do not pass by your servant. Let water now be taken, and wash your feet, and rest under the tree. And I will take bread, and you will eat, and after this you will go on your journey, on which account you turned aside to your servant. And then you can continue, after eating with me. And he said, do so just as you have said. Okay, so that was the Lord's response. And Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah and said to her, hurry and mix 3 measures of the finest wheaten flour, and make loaves baked in the ashes. And Abraham ran to the kettle and took a tender and fair little calf, and he gave it to the servant, and he hurried to prepare it. He took butter and milk, and the little calf that he prepared, and set it before them, and they ate. He himself stood beside them under the tree. He said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? But he replying said, look, she is in the tent. He said, when I return, I will come to you at the same time next year. And Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Sarah heard this at the door of the tent, being behind him. See, just giggles. Sorry. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in days. Menstruation had ceased. There we go. That's where it says menstruation had ceased for Sarah. Okay, so here we see that it has been said that at time of being able to have that foreconception was over. So during the time of with Hagar, just the impatience, I guess. Or like I said, the last teaching, we could also still see it as this Father's way of making many nations through Abraham. But that would kind of go to me looking at it from that angle, because I know some would drive with that and see, like, see, he wasn't mad that he had a second wife and I can have this, and so many different thoughts can come for wanting to use that for that reason. But that would, to me, kind of go against with where Messiah says, like, from the beginning it wasn't so, like, Father just wanted man to be with one woman. And so I just take it as that they were just impatient. And then you see several examples of where it took a turn because of it jumping ahead of time. Because Father doesn't really need the help. He just wants you to believe that it will happen. Just gotta wait for him to do it. But that's just my opinion on it. Okay, so yeah. Okay, Sarah heard this at the door of the tent, being behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in days. Menstruation had ceased for Sarah. Sarah laughed. Oh, that's where it says that she laughed her there. Sarah laughed to herself, saying, well, it has not yet happened to me up to now, and my Lord is an old man. So I don't know how to take that comment, because Messiah has kind of like spooked me in a good way, but it's something, you know, it's just something in the fact that he can read minds. And I've seen those examples of him reading the mind. And so I've always wondered if Sarah, because it says laughed to herself, and normally you can have a thought in your mind and still giggle. And so it makes me wonder if he read her mind and she didn't really like say it under her breath necessarily. It could be an either or, I guess. Okay, so Sarah laughed to herself, saying, well, it has not yet happened to me up to now, and my Lord is an old man. And the Lord said to Abraham, is it that Sarah laughed in herself? See, right here, he's pointing that out, like she's laughing in herself. Is it that Sarah laughed in herself, saying, then indeed, truly will I give birth? I have grown old. Is the word impossible with God? See, there we have it. He is the God of possibilities, not impossible. Okay, is the word impossible with God? No, very much possible. I will return to you at this season, for the time, and Sarah will have a son. And see, and if you can recall, with me here. I'd have to go back and find it, but where he was kind of saying, look, this is what was going to happen to your descendants, but not yet, because sin had not fully developed yet. So see, Father works just on right timing. He waits. You just have to wait. But he's saying all these are all going to happen, but things just have to be fulfilled yet. He sets the time frame for it. Let me see. I'm trying to get it. Let's see. Right here on 15, chapter 15, if you recall with me there. Chapter 15, verse 16, the fourth generation, they will be brought back here, for the sin of the Amorites have not yet become enough. And so Father just works on perfect time frames. But he lets you know in advance, like, this is what I'm going to promise you. This is what's going to happen. He just doesn't have to tell you the time, how long. He'll just let you know, like, it's going to happen. You just got to wait for it. So he's out of possibilities, and in due time. Okay, I will return back to it. Verse 14 on chapter 18. I will return to you at this season for the time, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh. She said, for she was afraid. And he said, no, but you did laugh. So, see, that kind of makes me feel like, how did he know that I was laughing inside? And how did he know what I said? So, see, those things freak me out in a good way. Now they're starting to be in a good way. The first time I started seeing little things like this in another place, that's when I was like, oh, like, you really got to work at living right before him. Because when you start to have that relationship, when you look at Yeshua's own words and how he judged matters, where it kind of even seems like he makes it much more stronger, to be aware that you're on the verge of that fine line, because he lets you know, like, in the New Testament, where about lusting, that if a man lusts in his heart, he's basically committed adultery. He already speaks that. So yeah, there's a lot of thoughts to that one. But that will come in due time when I get to my thoughts and how I kind of feel like that still gets partial judgment there. But like I said, when I get to that point, I'll share exactly why I feel so. Because, and that's where me and my husband sometimes kind of differ on the viewpoint with it. Because my husband's like, well, it's not sin until it's fully developed, when it's finally there. But I look at Yeshua's words like, that's already crossing the line. And so, but anyways, but we can disagree, and still, the love is still there. So don't think that, me and my husband are at odds. No, me and him respect each other's viewpoints, and we just let Father, if I want to give him the extra credit for, like, like, you better really, really check yourself. And, my husband wants to give just where the credit is, like, where it is, of course, both sides I still feel is fine. But I really take really mindfulness to my thoughts. Now I'm just like, just because of this, really, truly, because it's like, I look at her comment like, how did he know? And then for her to be afraid of, at that time, that says to me that she did it inwardly and he knew. He knew. But anyways, let's see here what else that was going through my mind as I was reading, but I was like, I'll get back to it. Oh, okay. As far as Abraham, like recognizing Messiah here, because right away you can, of course he says Lord, and it kind of could seem like he knew that it was the Lord. My husband kind of leans on that one, like you can see him, and that's been like one of my husband's desires is, well, not necessarily to see him. He wants to hear him audibly the most, if he never really ever gets to see him. But he does, lean more towards like, yeah, he did see him and he recognized who he was. But at the same time, I'm wondering if he really knew if that was Father. I mean, of course, one could think, well, he must have, because he, for Messiah to say, where's Sarah, your wife, um, should give that indication. Like that makes it kind of common sense that he would know that that's Messiah. And yeah, it could be seen as so, but I mean, you even have the story of Balaam and the donkey, and it didn't come as a shock to him at all. That this donkey was talking, and he just like if he was just having a conversation with the donkey, like if he does it on a daily basis, and yet it didn't shock him. So I don't know. Could it just be that how did he did like he didn't really it didn't really faze him that he called out his wife's name and that he knew of him? He was just excited and just was standing by them. Maybe he was just happy to see people, travelers on their way, and he's just hospitable. I know I get very excited when I meet people for the first time, and I want to make them feel welcomed as best as I can, And who knows if I'm just too excited that I don't catch little things that they might say that should make me think like, wait a minute, like how did you know that? Possible. I don't know, but you could say I don't know. I don't know if you see it how I'm seeing it. Like it could go either way. That he recognized him and then maybe not. I don't know. But anyways, let's carry on. Okay, the next title that we should kind of see where it's going with it is Judgment Will Come to Sodom. Okay. Upon rising from there, upon rising from there, the men looked down on the face of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham was going along with them, accompanying them. The Lord said, Will I hide what I am doing from Abraham, my servant? Okay, so now this kind of makes me feel more that they did know each other, that they did know each other. But anyways, the Lord said, Will I hide what I am doing from Abraham, my servant? Abraham will become a great and numerous nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him. For I know that he will appoint his sons and his household after himself, and they will keep the ways of Jehovah, by doing righteousness and justice, so that Jehovah may bring upon Abraham all the things that he said over him. Jehovah, the Lord, I don't know whether to like say it by Yeshua here, I don't know. Just because of the fact that when Messiah was talking to the Pharisees, he says, Abraham saw me. So maybe Yeshua said, the outcry of, I'll just stick with the Lord. The Lord said, the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah has increased, and their sins are very great. Therefore, I will go down and see if they are coming to an end, according to their crying that is coming to me, and if not, so that I may know. Okay, so we do see that he does pay visits. That's why it's like, we gotta be mindful, truly. We saw it in the time of the Tower of Babel, that they did come down to see what the people were doing. And now we have this same situation where he's here again, and now he wants to go and check for himself about this outpouring cry of its, sin, is at a high. A lot of things that fathers created, it rats us out. We rat ourselves out. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and everything else. So they can smell, they can hear, they can, they know. So they come to check on it to see if it is so. And it kind of makes me wonder if, like right here, because he says, I will go down and see if they are coming to an end. Because see, like right there, that lets us know that Father's very, very patient. He doesn't want no one to die. He lets it to get past the point of like, oh, I've had it. I came and checked it myself, and it is so exactly from what I was already, hearing and smelling and understanding. Now I came to check it for myself so I can make the full-on judgment. And now I've had it. They're past the point of no more chances or no more help. Let's take them out of their misery, because that's what they're kind of looking like they need. So he's very patient. He waits. He hopes that people will change. And so for him to go on to say, we'll go down and see if they are coming to an end according to their crying that is coming to me. And normally when people are sinning, you think they're happier than happy. That's what the outside looks like. They don't mind being, in their foolish ways. But me seeing like him stating and to their crying that has come to me makes me think of the spirit that, like I told you, Father has given us a spirit of fear. Like we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We're designed in a way that we have a signature piece of him in us that's straight from him, the spirit. And so there's a part where it says that the spirit even groans things that we don't even know. That there's those moments where you're like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I don't feel like myself at the moment. And you just can't put your finger on it. You're like, I don't know whether I feel like I want to cry, and if I feel like I want to cry, why? I don't know if any of you have ever had that feeling. I know I've gone through those. But when I got to read about that part, where even our spirit groans things that we don't know, it utters things that we don't know. That's like, you can't shake what's inside. And here you're trying to go through like, have I done something wrong? You're trying to analyze the situation. Have I, am I feeling guilty about something? And that could be it. It's knowing exactly what it is that you are doing, and it's letting Father know this thing that's crying within you, that you just like the conviction. I don't know, that's just the best way that I could put it. Your conviction within you is just like, it's letting you know something you've done is just not right. And that's just the way I look at it in that part. Okay. And so now he's going to go and check it to see if, what needs to be done. Okay, so I'll read that part again. Therefore, I will go down and see if they are coming to an end, according to their crying that is coming to me, and if not, so that I may know. Okay, so he wants to really check it for himself. And after turning back from there, the men came to Sodom, and Abraham was standing before the Lord. Okay, so here we see, because there was 3 of them, but the other 2 went ahead of the Lord. Okay, and it was just now, this is just Abraham with the Lord. Okay, so Abraham was standing before the Lord, and after approaching, Abraham said, "Will you destroy the righteous with the ungodly? And will the righteous be treated like the ungodly? If there are 50 righteous in the city, will you destroy them? Will you leave the place unpunished on account of the 50 righteous, if they are in it? No way shall you act according to this plan, to kill a righteous person with an ungodly one. So the righteous person will be like the ungodly. No way." Okay, so we're seeing where he's going through an emotional, situation here, hearing this news. And not only that, we also need to know that this emotional feeling he's feeling is because also he has a nephew there, and he's like, wait, one of my family members is there. So you could just see like what could have been like why he's going through this, why he's responding the way he's responding. Will the one who judges all the earth not do justice? So he's like letting Father know, like, that it doesn't seem fair right now, like, doesn't seem right, like. The Lord said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the entire place because of them." And replying, Abraham said, "Now I have begun to talk to the Lord, but I am earth and ashes. If the 50 righteous are decreased by 5, would you destroy the whole city on account of the 5? And he said, I will certainly not destroy it if I find 45 there. And he continued, still talking to him, and said, if 40 are found there. And he said, I will certainly not destroy it on account of the 40. And he said, Is it anything, Lord, if I speak? If 30 are found there? And he said, I will certainly not destroy it if 30 are found there. And he said, "Since I am able to talk to the Lord, if 20 are found there." And he said, "I will certainly not destroy on account of the 20." And he said, "Is it anything, Lord, if I may speak yet once more? If 10 are found there?" And he said, "I will certainly not destroy on account of the 10." And the Lord departed when he finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So we could see what connection to have with Father. That if you're just, you're really strong in that relationship, that you can talk to him, in your emotional state, and he can recognize it. He can see where you're coming from. Kind of makes me tend to wonder, like, what really the attitude Peter must have, because I always looked at that situation with Yeshua rebuking him and telling him, "Get thee behind me, Satan." I don't know if Yeshua was just already like, "Don't try to make me feel, good with that type of thought, that the intent of what you're meaning, when I know what is about to happen, like maybe a frustration." That's why he responded the way he did with Peter, because, Peter had, to me, I look at Peter as like, no, that's not gonna happen to you, like you're the God, you're his son, like this wouldn't happen to you. Or with his attitude of like, none of us will let that happen to you, But I don't know his response there, and then his response here when he's like, "No way!" And right here we see the exclamation point, the mark, where you could see the kind of, it looks like his frustration or his anxiousness with hearing this news. But Father knows our hearts when we see the situation not going so well and how it's being stated. So, and he has, like, I know you're my creation, so I have patience with you here. You don't know the importance as to why it needs to happen. But yeah, so it's nice to talk with him and see it even shows there that our prayers and our hopes that we put before him, he's willing to say, "Fine, you're really hoping that if it isn't so, due to this amount, that is small, if I'll have compassion on it still, so be it." And see, that's generosity. It's not like he's out for blood. So many comments I've heard where some look at God like if he's cruel. No, he waits, and we saw it. We just saw it where it's increased. It gets to that limit of like, no, it's just not. It's no longer savable, or it's no longer. There's no ounce of good here. It's straight up bad, and it just needs to be demolished. So anyway, that takes care of that. We do have a couple of letters. Here's the part where you can go and get something to eat and drink while I'm trying to find these little letters to just, like I said, increase our understanding. I want to give you guys, as well as myself, everything. this book has to offer to understand it. Okay, so letter A. I already started on chapter 18, and so letter A on this page where I'm at is on 17, so I'm not going to go back there, but I did find letter B, so that's pretty good. It's pretty fast. Okay, so on verse 2, it says, upon looking up, he saw with his eyes, and look, 3 men had stood over him. And upon seeing them, he ran up from the doorway of his tent to meet. And so that letter B, it's saying literally for a meeting with. Okay, so from the doorway of his tent for a meeting with them. That's another way it says it. Okay, and then on this page, to find the little letters. Shouldn't be too long now because I found the letter C, which there's only 3 letters. So it should be faster, I would hope. Okay, B. Find that small letter. Okay, here we go. Okay, so on verse 10, it says, he said, will I return? Oh, no, when I return, and the letter A is on by the word return, and it says turning, literal turning. So when I turning, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to say it that way. But anyways, when I return, I will come to you at the same time next year. So letter B is by year, and it's just with a view of season. Okay, so with a view of season. And then the letter C is on verse 11. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in days. Menstruation had ceased from Sarah. So it's letter C. Literally, the woman's things had ceased to happen for Sarah. The woman's things. Makes me think of like a child trying to describe menstruation without saying the word. Like the woman's parts, the woman's things had ceased. Okay, so that takes care of those little letters. And some time left. Okay, we only have 7 minutes, but we could try to squeeze in some more reading by chapter 19, see where it's at. And if, we'll just come back to it next reading. Okay, so now we're on sorry, I was thinking if I just stop and I can just go over stuff, but I kind of been sharing along the way pretty well, so I don't think I have much to speak on every piece here, because I'm sharing on it already. So, yeah, let's just carry on. Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. Now we see Yeshua had departed Abraham. The 2 angels came to Sodom at evening. Lot was seated beside the gate of Sodom. When he saw them, Lot rose up to meet them and bowed with his face to the earth. And he said, Look, lords, turn aside to the house of your servant and lodge there, and wash your feet. And when you rise early, you can depart to your journey. See, now it makes me think, so Lot had to have known what they look like too. See, did they really know what they look like? Because like now today, it's like when we hear of like we entertain angels unawares. Now it's like kind of feels like disguisable. But back then it's like they recognized or knew what to look for. I don't know. How did they know? What do they look like? The mystery. Okay. Anyways, just to put that in there. Okay. When he saw them, Lot rose up to meet them and bowed with his face to the earth. And he said, Look, lords, turn aside to the house of your servant and lodge there and wash your feet. And when you rise early, you can depart to your journey. They said, No, rather we will lodge in the street. And he pressured them, and they turned aside to him and entered into his house. And he made them a drink and baked them unleavened loaves. And they ate before they fell asleep. And the men of the city, the Sodomites, surrounded the house. Young and old, and the whole people together. And they kept calling Lot and saying to him, Where are the men who came in with you tonight? Bring them out to us, so we can be with them. Lot came out to them, and he closed the door after him. He said to them, No way, brothers, don't act wickedly. Okay, so even right there we can see where Lot is, trying to tell them of good judgment, to do right. No way, brothers, don't act wickedly. I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. I will bring them out to you, and you may use them as you want. It's pretty hard to think on where he tells them of good, and then now he's just like throwing his daughters to the wolves. And he's just like, just to save these men. I don't know how to think on that at this moment. I didn't know how to think of it when I read it back when either. It's like, wow, that's just, I could not see myself doing that with my daughter. I just could not. I wouldn't allow them to do, be saying those things for the men I would be hosting myself, but I would still not throw in my daughters. So I don't know. Takes me in thoughts for a second there. Imagine just like giving over something of yours just because you're trying to like stop the situation, like you're feeling pressured. And you want to save yourself in a sense. Almost like if a threat comes to threaten your life and you're like, here, take this and take this. And for the sake of those angels that he knew of, he was just like, don't. Is he trying to save the situation because he knew these angels could do some damage? You know, and he's just like, here, and make to kind of calm the situation from any disaster coming. It could be where Lot was trying to help the situation of kind of even protecting these people, but he was just like, here are my daughters. All right, that takes care of the time, and so I'm just going to end it with that thought right there, and we'll just come back to it. But makes you think that was even something that Lot was willing to just give over his daughters to try to like help the situation, knowing these angels could do some stuff and these people would suffer for it. It was like sad the daughters were thrown in the mix for that reason, but to even try to save many lives from what could happen by these angels, I could see somewhat why he was trying to. It's pretty sad though, all at the same time. But anyways, that takes care of our reading time, and we will come back to this same chapter and just start from the beginning and then go forward again once again with it. But I hope you enjoyed our study time together and that it encourages you to pick up your word and, grow more in your relationship with Father, just to see how easy it is to just have this study time with Him. It's not that hard. Okay, if one thing I can take from, there's a lot that I took, and I was sharing everything that I took. There's one thing that stood out that I want to glean from this, and that's probably going to be my description, is Messiah saying right here on verse 14 in chapter 18, is the word impossible with God? Okay, having shared my thoughts as to why it took that much time before Sarah received this promised child, because Father wanted to show him, I do it on my timing, and I do it to where you think a certain part that is it can't be so. That's where I will show my glory. I will be I cause things to happen. And I did share why I kind of feel that way, and I've seen it over and over, that Father just waits for quite some times to just bring about His promises. But anyways, that's what I'm taking, and I'm just happy with it. Anyways, I will pray, and then we will come together again when it's that time. Abba, I come before you, giving you praise and thanks once again for what your word shows us of more of your character, more of your personality, how it seems to start to reveal you. How you're revealing yourself to us as we read about you. You cannot be pushed or moved, and not to say that you don't take into consideration our hearts, thoughts, and our emotional state of what could be the outcome, willing to hear us and then still work with us in order to, still give the better hope of the matter. So I love you, Abba, for being able to recognize you in these situations. That you are so patient, you're long suffering, and you don't like to destroy anybody. You have your limits just like any of us. And you wait and you hope and you go and check it yourself and hope that that it doesn't have to be the case. And then you listen to those that are in relationship with you that will pray for the outcome and hope for the better. So I thank you, Abba. I thank you. I see, how patient you are, and that you do surprise us on perfect timings. You are the God of possibility. You cause things to happen. Nothing's impossible for you. So I'm happy that my life is in your hands, Abba, and I do not have to fear. I am just to listen, hope. That's it. Listen and hope. And to wait. So I thank you for the surprises you do in our lives, Father. In Yeshua's name, Abba, be with us always and forever. In Yeshua's name, amen. Well, that's it. I hope you all had a great time, and I shall see you again soon. Love you all.